5:02. My clock says it's 5. I'm just going to talk about the book that this is from for a minute before we really start going through the slides. There is an organization called Bariatric Support Centers International. And for some of you who I send out, I have your emails and I send stuff out to. It's an international organization, and it was started by a bariatric surgery patient back in the 90s. Am I loud enough that everybody can hear? Okay. And her name is Colleen Cook. And she struggled with the same things that everybody else struggles with, one of them being weight regain and plateaus and those kinds of things. And so she started out interviewing people. For many years, she interviewed people who had had bariatric surgery and who had done very well, had gotten their weight off, and had maintained that weight off. And she wanted to see if she could figure out, if she saw any trends or anything that identified things that people could do in order to be successful. And she wrote this book, and there's been several different editions published. I got mine off of Amazon.com for $7, so you can buy it a lot of places, and it is very interesting and very helpful. And one of the things that I heard a lot from people last year was that was what they wanted to talk about more. They wanted to talk about weight regain and plateaus and how to really get back on track and get the rest of their weight off. And so that's why we're going to start, the next 4 months, we're going to have speakers addressing that problem. And so I'm going to kind of go over her, what she discovered in her research, the habits that those people who were successful had. And then next month, Dr. Sabapathy is going to talk about the emotional aspect, the behavioral part, and the relationship you have with food. And then Laura's going to talk about the nutritional component. And then the 4th month, I'm going to have a fitness gentleman, he's master's prepared, not doctor, but he's an exercise physiologist, and he's been doing it for 30 years, and he's considered one of the experts in the country. And he lives here in Kansas City, and he has started centers around the country, and he does what's called high-intensity interval training. And we have had him come and talk about it before, and it's really very, very interesting. And a couple of years ago, we did a class here in the seminar room with patients who were stuck. They just, they were stuck on with that last 25 pounds or something that they couldn't get off. And everybody went through this class. Carla was there and Janetta was there, and it really boosted everybody's metabolism and got them losing again. And so when I started hearing this, I asked Greg, would you consider doing another class so a new group of people can learn about that? And he said, sure. And since I don't have access to this room as much as I used to, we're doing it at his center, which is on State Line Road. And what he normally does is go into corporations, and he does a wellness program. And so he does their fitness programs on the site for the companies. And then he has a small gym where he does personal training. And so we can only do about 12 people at a time, but we started it Tuesday night. And everybody was a little nervous because they weren't sure what this was about. But once we got done with it, everybody was like, oh my God, that was so much fun, I can do this. And it's true, because you're doing what they call Tabatas. You're doing intense amount of exercise for 30 seconds, then you have 15 seconds to get to the next exercise, and you do a circuit of about 8 different exercises that work upper, lower body exercises, some that are aerobic and some that are just strength. And what it causes is muscle confusion. And that muscle confusion allows your metabolism to get boosted up and stay up for 36 to 40 hours after you finished your workout. And that is something that you can't get walking on a treadmill or just doing a simple exercise over and over again for 30 minutes. And so we've got a group that has started in because, Derek is stuck at 98 and he wants to get to that 100 mark. And several other people, they said, I've just sort of been here for about 3 months. I'm stuck on this weight. And so they're all going to do it, and I will be reporting back. But if you find that you want to join that group at some point, call me, because there's a limited number of spots. It is $10 a class. And then he also, so you learn the training for that week, and then he's starting to post on YouTube the actual exercise, so you can go in and do it at home on the in-between times. And Carl is living proof. You've been through it. If you want to tell anybody about the training or what it did for you.
Oh yeah, I was stuck at like 200 pounds or like 190, and it's called Tabata. And he has, like she said, videos posted on, but he brings things like ropes or these rubber bands, things that you could do at home. And, you know, we would come once a week and then I would do them in between. And so when I first came to KC Bariatric, I was 374. And by the time I met Greg, I was like, I had lost 100 pounds. And started doing that. And I started exercising, trying to do high impact, twice a week. And it's really helped. I'm down to 154, I think 152. Wow.
Yeah, well, and Debbie Jackson was there on Tuesday night. She's not here tonight, but Debbie came in and was walking with a cane, and she could not do the exercises. She had to do them sitting in a chair. And by the time, when she came back on Tuesday night, she had lost 110 pounds, and she doesn't use anything. She walked in, and Greg just couldn't even believe it. He was so excited to see her. No cane, no nothing. That
was my question. What if you have like a knee issue?
He can modify any exercise, and if you have to do it in a chair, that's fine. I mean, we would do jumping jacks sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
And he has resistance training bands that you can use. And at his gym on State Line, he has a lot more equipment than what we were able to do here. But it really, it's fun. It's something you can do. You're not in a gym where everybody's sleek and got these sculpted bodies. You're with a bunch of other people. Nancy was there. And so it takes all that fear out of it, because we're all in this together. And I'm doing the class too, because I need to shape up as much as anybody. So if you want to do that at some point, if you find yourself stuck and you want to bump things up a little bit, give me a call. There's a bunch of chairs up here in the front. Give me a call and I'll put you on the list. And if we've got an opening right then you can go ahead and start coming. And it is a lot of fun. We had a good time, and it really works. So just keep that in the back of your head.
What's the name of the author of the book you were talking about, Colin Cook? What's the name of the book?
It's called The Success Habits of Weight Loss Surgery Patients.
Okay.
That is the name of it, yes.
What was the name of the class again?
The fitness class, we do it at a place called AYC Fitness with a gentleman named Greg Justice. And you can just call me, and I will be happy to.
He has books too.
Oh yeah, he's written a lot of books on exercise.
Yes,
And,
he does. If you go to Amazon and Greg Justice, and if you go to Amazon and you Google his name, his books will come up. And also, if you friend him on Facebook, you will get like different tips and things from him. And if you type his name into Yahoo, you will bring up all of the exercises that he has posted out there.
I think
What are you going to say, Janetta?
I was going to mention the thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Just a good thing.
I think it's I went to libraries around and they don't have anything. I mean, they have
Yeah.
surgery, but there's nothing in libraries that you can
Right.
touch.
Well, and what people need, after you have your initial weight loss, your body kind of gets used to what you've been doing to get there, and now you have to increase the time or the intensity in order to ramp up that metabolism again. And this is designed specifically to get your metabolism up fast and keep it up for a long period of time. When you can exercise 2 or 3 times a week for 20 to 30 minutes, and it keeps your metabolism up for 36 hours or more, that's the best bang for your buck you can get. So in any way, keep that in mind. Let me know if you want to join the class, if you want to be on the list. We can do 12 at a time. And right now we have, I think we have 10 people that are signed up for it, so I still have a couple of spots. But let me know, and we'll be happy to get you in there and start working out. We were all just panting like idiots by the time it was over. We were sweating and panting. And you've only been working out for a short period of time. It's $10 a class, yes.
How far out from your surgery can you do that?
I don't recommend anybody do it until they've kind of lost and then they've plateaued.
Okay.
And they're at a point where they want to, as long as you're continuing to lose, that's fine. It's when you stop that loss and you kind of just are sitting there for several months and you can't get the rest of the way there. So, back to Success Habits of Weight Loss Surgery. So, this lady has interviewed probably more bariatric patients than anybody, and she put together the things that they kept telling her over and over again that worked for them. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, and just give you kind of the highlights from the book. Let's see, that's wrong. Okay. She said the very first thing is personal accountability. The surgery is not going to cure obesity, and it's not going to cure any other thing for you. You have to do something else to make that work. It's a tool. I know we always say it's a tool, and that's the truth. You still have to do the work and make the lifestyle changes. Now, nobody likes change. You know, that's just kind of a natural response to change. We all kind of like everything going wrong the same way. And so when you find that you need something to change, you kind of start looking for somebody else who's going to do that for you. I mean, I'm a nurse, and nurses hate change. I can guarantee you, boy, if they change anything in the hospital, they just go nuts. So, but you have to, and we try to find other people to fix it so we don't have to make the change, but we just simply have to get used to it. When we went to electronic medical records, it was like war. It was unbelievable. So, you know, we were like trying to complain, no, we don't want to do this, we want to go back to paper. Well, guess what? It's never going back to paper, so you better embrace it and do the work. So, and the same is true of your surgery. Surgery doesn't cure obesity. It's a tool to help you get there, but you have to do the work. And I love this statement because this is probably the best statement in the whole book. Successful people do those things which unsuccessful people are unwilling to do. And for some people that's hard to hear, but that's the truth. The people that I see do the work and stick with it, and you know, 5 years out, if you start to gain a little bit, they go back and they start over again and they get back on track. Those are the people that are able to keep it off a long term. And she had her surgery in 1995, and she has managed, she's gone through those times when she regained and plateaued and all of that, but she is just a little skinny mini these days, and she speaks all over the world on bariatric surgery. So it's a very interesting book. There's a lot of personal stories in it, so if you want to read more detail, by all means get the book. But personal accountability, she said, is the #1 thing that you absolutely have to embrace, because you're accountable for what you do. She said some of the things that she found, little tricks that she found that people used was they would weigh themselves regularly. That's not once a day or twice a day, that's once a week. And you are able to lose a pound or two at a time much easier than if you let it go and you don't know that you've gained the weight and suddenly you're up 30 pounds. That's a lot harder to do. So if you can control a pound or two, that's easier. You can lose that. She said you should weigh the same time every week, at the same time, with the same clothing on, with the same scale. We've all gone to the doctor and said, that didn't match what I got at home. Now, I actually love my doctor's office because his scale drops 5 pounds off me every time, so that's really good. But most of them don't. So you want to have the same scale so that you're really comparing apples to apples. The other thing she recommends is creating a chart of your weight so you can actually see graphically how you're doing. If you look and you see it starting to do this, you know, then you can get it back down. And if it's doing this, then you know you're doing a really good job, and that makes you feel better. That it kind of empowers you to do more. So graph it out. Just get a piece of graph paper and put your weights on one side and the weeks on the other, and just watch what happens. Okay. The other thing is to set weight loss goals. Now, a lot of times people tell me their goal is to get to a size 8, or their goal is to get to 150 pounds. I don't want numbers for goals. Though that just kind of sets you up for failure right there. Your goals should be something other than that. And what she recommends doing is picture yourself 10 years in the future. Where do you want to be? What do you want to learn and do? Places you want to visit, material things you want to have, and don't limit yourself. If you want to go to France, put that on your list. If right now it's not comfortable for you to travel, that should be a goal, is to be able to get on a plane and go wherever I want without having to have a lot of pain or worry about fitting in the seats or go to the theater, those kinds of things. Be able to move without pain is a huge goal for a lot of people. So set yourself where you want to be in the next 10 years and envision anything. You don't want to limit the possibilities, because you're just limiting yourself then, and you don't want to compromise. You want to be able to reach the things that you want to do. And if you know what those are, it makes it a lot easier to work towards. And one of the most inspiring patients I've ever had came to my support group in a mobility scooter. And stop me if I've told you the story. He came to class with his sunglasses on, a mobility scooter, and his hat pulled down. And he came in, and he didn't really talk much, and I kept trying to kind of engage him a little bit. And he just was, I just want to get this done. He just wanted to hurry up and have his surgery, etc. Well, about a month later, he was in the hospital and had his surgery. And he was kind of pumped up a little bit, and he said, I can't believe it's already here. It seemed like it took forever, but now I'm here, and I'm really excited about doing everything right. And he told me at that time that he said, I have a goal. My goal is to take my grandchildren my grandson to Disneyland and ride on a roller coaster with him. And my other goal is to take my wife on a cruise to Alaska. I saw him 2 years later. He wasn't not just off of his mobility scooter. He had both his hips replaced, his knee replaced, and a shoulder replaced. And he didn't even use a cane. He looked like a different person. He'd lost 175 pounds. And I said, did you make it to Disneyland? And he said, yeah. Last summer I took my grandson to Disneyland and we rode the roller coaster. And he goes, my wife and I have a cruise scheduled for July. That's the kind of thing you want to focus on. That's the kind of thing that motivates you and keeps working you toward that. So, yeah, it was just unbelievable. And he's just like a different person now. And his wife said, she was going to have the surgery too because she wanted to lose some weight. She was going to have a different one, but she said people didn't realize that that's who my husband really is this guy, because he had become so introverted and so depressed. So those are the kind of things you want to set for goals. One of the things that she recommends doing is get a new haircut or buy some new clothes or do something different to your appearance, and that kind of helps you get in that mood of doing something for yourself, because a lot of people don't do anything for themselves, they do everything for everybody else.
One of the things that my sister suggested to me when I started doing it,
Mm-hmm.
she said, you know what, go to the mall, because she would, surprise buy me something, there's no way, I'm not gonna pull that up over my thighs, I'm not gonna be able to do that, and then I'd be able to do it. And so I got in the habit of going to the mall and
Mhm.
going into places that I couldn't go before and trying on clothes, and it just sort of, it gives you that self-confidence
Mhm.
that you need, and you get all that good walking through the mall.
Yeah.
And so I started doing that. I mean, it sounds like a little thing, but
But it's the little things that you can do that really make the difference, and it makes you feel better about yourself.
Yeah, it does.
Absolutely. The best thing you can do to help get yourself motivated and feel good about yourself is to help somebody else, which is what we do here in support groups. Those who are further out help those who are brand new. And that's why support groups work so well. And so I'm really glad you're all here. And if you can't come, then you know it's on Facebook, and I can email you all the information. But help somebody who is struggling, and it will make a difference for you too. The second habit, she said, is portion control. And I actually found this one a little interesting because I didn't know some of this. Before surgery, portion control doesn't work because your body goes into starvation mode and hangs on to everything regardless of what you eat or your activity. Because your hormones get so out of balance that you're never satisfied and you're always hungry. So you never get that sense of, okay, I've had enough, and you can walk away. You walk away and you're still hungry. And after the surgery, that's reset. And after surgery, you feel full very quickly because the satiety sensors send the message to your brain that you're full. Satiety just means satisfaction. So once you finish eating your protein, and that's why we don't want you drinking a lot, is that you can let it sit there. It takes a while for it to digest, and you get that sense of fullness, and then you're not hungry then in between. The longer you can maintain that post-meal satiety, the more you are going to be able to prevent snacking before the next meal time. Snacking is one of those things that really gets people, and the best way to prevent it is to keep food in there longer. And that's why we have you not drink for 15 minutes before or for 30 minutes after, because then the food sits there. And like it says, the state of being full or gratified. I'm going to skip over this for a second because there's another slide I want to get to. Okay, so what influences you feeling satisfied? You have internal clues and you have external clues that you learn from your environment. And your internal clues are when you're really hungry. You know, you get that hunger to survive. And then there's cravings that you also get, and then there's some just genetic inherent set point that your body is trying to get to all the time for your weight. The ones we learn are the ones that really get us, the social and ritual eating. And I've got popcorn over there because I can't go to a movie and not eat a bag of popcorn. That's just how it is. And everybody has those little things. It's like you sit down in front of the television and you gotta have this or you've gotta have that. Those are the things you really have to work on, that habitual eating or that eating because you're depressed or whatever. So be aware of, why am I hungry? Am I hungry, or is it something like this? Am I just giving into the habit that I've gotten used to? Some of the foods and how they affect that are your beans and lentils. That's one of the best things you can do to help you stay full longer because it takes a long time for them to digest. So they're sitting in there a little bit longer. Your fatty foods, a lot of people eat them because they think that that's going to satisfy their hunger, and it does just the opposite. It just makes you hungrier. So you want to stay away from those. The more protein a food contains, the longer it will satisfy you. And this was, I didn't realize it. If adequate satiety is achieved, patients are successful. If not, they will fail. You have to feel satisfied at the end of a meal, or you're going to be hungry in between meals and you're going to start eating, okay? So the best way to maintain that is the pouch needs to be truly filled with adequate food, and that means the wall of your stomach, the new stomach, needs to feel just a little stretch. It needs to know that it's completely full. And the keeping the pouch filled over time and slowing down emptying by eating solid foods and avoiding your liquids for 15 minutes before and up to an hour after. Laura was telling me about a patient who kept getting, she didn't drink before or after her meals, the amount of time, but she was getting hungry. And Laura told her, she said, okay, then don't drink for another 15 minutes afterwards. So make it 45 minutes afterwards. And it stopped her hunger just like that. She just needed a little longer time. So if you find yourself getting too hungry too often, you might consider trying to delay that drinking for another 15 minutes. Some people have to go to an hour. It just depends. That was news to me, but it really is interesting. So you've got to have protein with each meal, and you've got to have those 3 meals a day. The enemies are high-calorie liquids, because you can drink those and they aren't going to stay in your stomach and they aren't going to make you feel full, and snacking. So you want to get that hunger under control by making sure that you are keeping that food in there long enough to delay that sense of hunger. One interesting question she asked a lot of people is, how big is your stomach? Well, they didn't know. You know, after 6 months, 12 months, nobody really knows how much your stomach holds. And so when they were baking a meal or eating a meal, they didn't really know how much to eat. And so, because after 6 months, your stomach stretches just a little bit. Say on a sleeve, you start out with a stomach that holds 2 to 3 ounces. Well, by 6 or 8 months, your stomach now may hold about 6 to 8 ounces. You don't ever want it to hold more than 9, but you may have a little bigger amount of food that you can have in order to get that satisfied feeling. And so they developed this test to figure out how big your stomach is. It's the cottage cheese test. And you buy a container of small curd, low-fat cottage cheese, and you start with a full container first thing in the morning. And when you get up, you want to eat pretty quickly, like in less than 5 minutes. You want to eat as much cottage cheese as it takes for you to feel full. And then after eating that, you pour from a measuring cup water into that cottage cheese container until it's full again. And that amount of water that you had to pour in is how big your stomach is. Okay?
That's so cool.
Yeah, I know. Who thought? I mean, that's pretty common sense, but yeah. So she said once they knew how big their stomach was, how much food they needed at a time, then they were more likely to eat that amount, get full, and then you don't, because some people are afraid to eat too much, so they're not eating enough so that they feel full, so then they're getting hungry in between meals. So know how much food your stomach can hold, okay?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
And you were saying that, but I remember you also saying, remember your signs, like, or was that Dr. Sabatovic? Like, my nose starts to run.
Oh, that's your soft stuff?
Yeah, but it really, really does help me, because like you said, you don't always know what to eat, and I don't know how big my stomach is, and I did wonder about that. And so when I start to feel a little full, my nose also starts to run. And so
That's
I
mine,
yeah.
I have to get up and get a Kleenex. That's always what happens.
But yeah.
And everybody has a little different sign, and some people don't have one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Laura's the one who talks about that in class, about the soft stop. It's just your body's way of saying, okay, you're done now. And it can be something as simple as you start belching, or you start sneezing, or your eyes start to water. For me, it's my nose. My nose starts to run. I have to get up and get a Kleenex. I know I'm done. So unless it's something really hot, and that's why my nose is running. Okay. So just, you might check that out and make sure, that you're getting enough to at each meal to really make yourself full. One of the biggest problems is that grazing, and it's one of the biggest causes of weight regain. So you want to plan your meals in advance. Notice the time of day you're most likely to graze. What are you doing when you feel you want to graze? Is it sitting in front of, is it sitting at the movie, or what else? What do you eat when you graze, and how did you get it? What type of food you crave? And notice how you feel when wanting to snack. Are you bored, stressed, anxious, what? And then take inventory of what you have in your pantry, what's available. If it's not there, you're not going to eat it. So really make sure that you're not, stocking up a lot of the carbs, okay, the simple sugars. And identify what triggers you, and get some good protein snacks. String cheese is great. Those turkey jerky is what I call it, those little things that you can buy that are like the meat. Slim Jims, yes, thank you. Yeah, those are all protein, so get some baby bell cheeses, or, there's a lot of little containers that you can put something in, a cup of yogurt, whatever. But have some healthy snacks so that when you feel that, you can then try one of those instead. You know, a handful of almonds is fine, but you don't want to eat a whole bag. You know, nuts have a lot of fat in them, and I can eat a whole bag, trust me. So you want to maybe have individual portions of, say, maybe 10 or 12 almonds, and you can pull that out and eat it. Things like that, so that you are getting healthy snacks if you really get to the point where you've got to have something else. When you have a stomach that small, there's no room for junk. I think we talked about that in a lot of the classes. So again, you need your protein to build muscle. You need to eat your veggies second. They're needed for energy. And then if you have any room left, you can have some carbs. And watch your fats because they're important, but too much gets stored in the body, and that's what causes you to have a high triglyceride, high cholesterol and triglyceride. Everything you eat is used to provide your body with materials needed to build and replace cells. And any excess is going to get stored as fat. And that goes for protein too. If you eat more than the amount of protein that you need, your body's going to turn that into a carbohydrate and store it as fat. So moderation in everything. A lot of you know this. A lot of you learned this when you first had surgery, and a lot of you forgot it, and that's why you struggle afterwards. Protein is always got to be forever and ever the first thing you eat, because your body digests it very slowly. It stabilizes your blood sugar. It helps you to build muscle, and it also is what's going to keep you satisfied the longest. With fats, interestingly enough, for the first 6 months after surgery, her research showed that you don't have to worry about fats as much as you do after 6 months, which is mostly when people start having their weight regain and plateaus. As your stomach increases its capacity, like I said, at 6 months it's bigger, and for the gastric bypass, it goes from 1.5 to 2 ounces to about 4 to 6 ounces. As your capacity increases, you want to pay attention to the fat content, because if you want to lose fat, you don't want to eat fat, because fat just gets converted to more fat. It has more calories in it than any other food source. So while you need some fat for your immune system and skin and hair, you don't want to overdo it with the fats, and you want to eat the healthy fats, the olive oils. And there was something that just was on the news yesterday or today about avocados. Did you hear that? That because they have so much good fat in them, that an avocado a day is good for your heart. Now, an avocado a day is probably too much.
Yeah.
But, and do not read an avocado a day as guacamole every day, because guacamole has a lot of other stuff in it, and it's those chips that you eat with it that are going to kill you. So I can't, it's horrible. You go to a Mexican restaurant and you're full from the guacamole and chips before you can get your food. But guacamole is a great oil to have. So you want some of that to be healthy, but you just don't want to overdo it. Again, everything in moderation. Carbohydrates. Carbohydrates have always kind of puzzled me. I wasn't really clear on carbohydrates. I'm not a dietitian, and I know she knows them upside down, but it wasn't something that made a lot of sense to me. So when you eat carbohydrates, your body converts them to sugar because it's providing fuel for the rest of your body. But any leftover glucose is stored in your liver, which is what causes liver disease and enlarged livers. You all went on that pre-op diet in order to shrink your liver down. Well, then after you've been off of that for a while, then they kind of like to creep back in, because frankly, carbohydrates are really good. And so you want to have more of your complex carbohydrates. So think vegetables, because your body has to break them down in order to use them much more slowly. And so again, that helps with your blood sugar, and it helps to keep you full longer. Your simple carbohydrates, all the processed food, those are the ones you really want to stay away from, and those are the ones we all like. And if you find yourself regaining weight, that needs to be the very first thing that you eliminate. look and see what simple carbs have I introduced back into my diet and get rid of them, okay? Start by just eliminating those. And we've talked about this in class, we've talked about it a lot, about how grocery stores kind of are set up for you to eat your simple carbs. The healthy food is around the outside of the grocery store. It's the vegetables and fruits. And then you have the meat and seafood section. And then you have your dairy products. Every store has that almost outside aisles, and all the processed food, all your cereals and your cookies and your granola bars and all those things that we all like to think are healthy for us and are not, those are your simple processed foods, and you want to avoid those. So kind of make a mental note when you go into the grocery store and shop just that outside aisle, and you'll be really surprised. It will make a big difference. The fourth habit is watching your fluid intake. You cannot eat and drink at the same time, because the name of the game really is slow gastric emptying. You want stuff to stay in your stomach, which is why we talk about 15 minutes before and 30 minutes after. And a good way to demonstrate this is, there was a lady who came in and she said, you know, well, I can eat 4 cheese sandwiches at a time, at a sitting. And it's like, whoa, how can you do that? How can you possibly get in 4 cheese sandwiches? And she said, well, I eat a bite and then I drink, and then I eat a bite and then I drink. And that's exactly what happens when you drink. You will just be able to keep washing it through and eating as much as you want. So it really is about keeping that stomach empty and not drinking for at least 30 minutes afterwards. You want the food to stay in there as long as possible.
We were talking about the simple carbs.
Mhm.
Something I learned in the November meeting from one of the small groups.
Uh-huh.
Somebody was talking about P28 bread.
What is it called?
P28.
P28, okay.
You have to order it online, and it's kind of expensive. It has a short shelf life, so you put it in your freezer. I take out 2 pieces of bread at a time and put it in a baggie.
Uh-huh.
It's wheat. It's very heavy. It's so big it won't fit in my toaster. I have to cut it in half. But 1 piece of bread has 14 grams of protein,
Oh, wow.
and it's very good toasted.
Okay.
And my husband was kind of freaking out about my hair loss, so I'm like, I need protein. So he also ordered me the bagels, and I would eat a half of a bagel, and it has 14 grams of protein.
Oh,
So I would toast it and put just a tiny, tiny bit of peanut butter on it. Yummy.
hmm
I'm sorry, what? I don't remember. I wasn't concerned with the fiber.
P28, well, I bet it's got a lot of it.
Yeah, but, so I had a grilled cheese for the first time. It was yummy.
Uh-huh.
So I used the spray butter, the
Uh-huh.
low-fat butter, and I had I bought some sugar-free syrup, and I had a piece of French toast, which I
Oh,
also
wow.
I also had the egg,
Right,
and I had
absolutely.
sugar-free almond milk a little bit,
Mhm.
and cinnamon, and the sugar-free syrup had
Mhm.
25 calories for a fourth of a cup, which I did not use a fourth of a cup.
Mhm.
It took me a while to be able to eat that 1 piece of French toast.
Mhm.
And unlike before, when I would be on like Weight Watchers or something, I would eat a piece of French toast and I would be starving afterwards.
Mhm.
No.
But that has so much protein in it, and it keeps you full.
And your stomach is full.
Right.
Right.
P28, you can just Google it and find it
Yes.
online.
My husband's like, it's not on Amazon. I'm like, I sent you the link. Where is that? You just Google P28 bread. It's like $6 or $7 for a loaf of bread, and you can order it. I only wanted to order 1 loaf to see if I liked it. But on one of the sites, you can order 4 loaves at one time,
Oh, wow.
which you put in the freezer. You take out 2 pieces at a time.
Yeah.
And
Are you
it's
familiar
probably
with
kind of hard to toast frozen bread.
Yeah.
I want to see what would be the total amount of carbohydrates in that one slice and see how's the carb to protein ratio on
Let
that.
me Google it and I'll see.
Yeah, because you want the amount of protein to be pretty close, as much as possible. You want the protein and your carb ratio to be 1 to 1. So if it's got 14 of protein, you would like to see 14 of carbohydrates.
Oh, is that how that?
12 grams of the total carbs and 14 grams of protein, thumbs up for that.
12
Oh.
grams of carbs?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And the 30
Awesome.
slices and 1 slice and 3.5 grams in total fat. Perfect.
Good deal.
Well, we may have to get some and bring some to the next support group and everybody taste it.
And what they do.
That would be awesome.
What they do, the
I miss the
P28
blend.
is a blend. They blend whey protein isolate with gluten, soybean. So it's like a mix of all different kinds of protein blended into the product, and that's what keeps it on a 1-to-1 ratio. So that's perfect.
Oh, well, that's really good to know about.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And how many calories is it?
Well, more than calories, think of grams. So
Oh, is that right?
it is equivalent. 1 full slice is equals 2 ounces on your protein, and it's a 1-to-1 ratio with your carbohydrates. So that's perfect.
Oh, okay.
You know, so you may have an extra ounce of protein through cheese, you know, and then you get your 3 ounces of protein with 1 serving.
They did have nut butters and stuff, and I said, well, do you want the nut butters and stuff? And then I looked at the, I'm like, it's the same as, it was about the same as regular protein, regular peanut butter.
Exactly.
So I'm just like, I just used regular peanut, and just barely put any peanut butter on it.
And it satisfies you until like the next meal.
Yeah. I mean, it took me a while to eat it.
Exactly.
Good. Glad to know about it.
But just remember, if you eat half of the slice, that will be ounces.
There's no way I can eat 2 pieces.
No, but 1 full. Can you eat 1 full slice?
Yes.
Okay.
But they, I kept saying, 28 grams of protein for a sandwich. I can't eat a whole sandwich.
No. 1 slice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Back to us.
I'm gonna have to order some of that and we'll give it a try. Okay, the problem with coffee and tea, and the reason we like you to limit it, and again, this is news to me. Apparently, caffeine not only increases your energy, but it also increases your perception of stress. So, and that increases your stress response, which I didn't realize. They said that people who drink caffeine-free stuff, you know, their response to something stressful is a lot calmer than somebody who's had caffeine. And they said that what happens is it increases your stress response, which is you then produce cortisol. And as we talked about with hormones, cortisol causes belly fat. So this is my cortisol baby, right? But it also interferes with calcium absorption. So not that you can't have caffeine, just limit it a little bit. Don't be drinking caffeine all day long. And then the other thing is there's tannic acid in your caffeinated drinks, and that's harmful for your stomach lining. But you could certainly use non-caffeinated herbal teas anytime, and those are probably better for you anyway. So just a little note about that if you've gotten too carried away with your coffee and your tea. And we all know that alcoholic beverages are going to be absorbed a lot more quickly, and alcohol is frequently carbonated. So you don't want to take in too much alcohol because it's full of sugar, which is a lot of calories, and the carbonation is one of the biggest things that causes you to stretch out your stomach. One thing I hadn't thought of was a lot of cold medicines have alcohol in them. So you might want to read those labels before you take a whole bunch of something that's full of alcohol. Your best choice is always going to be water. It makes up 70% of your muscles and 75% of your brain, which was shocking to me also. So I didn't realize that. Okay, we've talked about carbonation, so I'm not going to say anything other than the reason that it stretches your stomach is it releases gases, and that expands your stomach or your pouch or your sleeve, and if it gets stretched too much, then its ability to feel full is compromised. You know, you have, like it said, you want to feel full, you want just a tiny bit of stretch on that stomach, and if you have stretched your stomach out, now it's going to take more for you to feel that. So that's another good reason to stay away from your carbonation.
That includes even the diet ones. I was talking,
Yes,
we were having a
yes.
discussion, it was kind of heated, but no, it doesn't matter. No, it's Diet Coke. I was like, yeah,
Any carbonated drink, yeah, you're right. Obviously exercise, it's pretty hard to commit to that, for a lot of people, but she said what you gotta do is eliminate all those excuses. You know, I can come up with 100 reasons why I don't wanna exercise after work, but you have to eliminate those excuses, which one of the things that's good about where we're exercising over at Greg's place is you don't have to worry about being seen, because we're all in this together, and we all know that everybody's got some weight to lose. So, so find some place that where you're not embarrassed to go. One of the guys who came the other night told me afterwards. He says, you know, I get so nervous before I go to a gym. He says that I just can't do it. And he goes, this was great. He says I felt so comfortable and at home because I know these people. They're, you know, I've known them for support group, and so he really liked that. So you've got to find some place where you can do your exercising that you feel good about, and you can develop your own routine. I mean, some people they make their own little music things that they can exercise to, and you know, it doesn't have to be working in a gym with a trainer. Just develop something that you actually enjoy, and then you've got to stick with it. And while regular exercise is important during weight loss, this is the big takeaway, it is essential for long-term maintenance. A lot of that initial weight loss is coming because we've altered your anatomy, and so some of that weight is coming off more easily because of the surgery and because you are so limited in what you can eat initially. But down the road, then the problem becomes how to maintain that, and exercise is going to always be, need to be there. Yes?
In June, when I had my surgery, I got a neighbor to be a buddy, and it helps you to make sure you go out there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've worn out 2 neighbors now. They poop out on me, and they're normal.
Uh-huh.
And now, since I am in the habit, I have my fast playlist on my phone, and
Mhm.
I would rather go by myself
Mm-hmm.
because they're slow.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, okay, let's run from this light pole to that light pole. Oh no, I can't do that. I haven't worked out for a week, and I'm just like,
Get an app on your phone.
okay, oh my God.
The Couch to 5K app on your phone.
You know what? I'm faster than that.
Probably,
I
yeah.
mean,
What'd you say, couch to what?
Couch to 5K. It's an app you can put on your phone, and what it does is it says, okay, run for 30 seconds, and so you run as fast as you can, which, you know, for me is not very fast. And then it'll say, okay, now walk until the next thing, and it'll sort of have you go back and forth between walking and running. And my daughter started doing this, and she said, I was amazed at how quickly I got to where I could actually run for a whole mile. You know, I can run maybe a half a block, and you know, she said initially she would just get so tired and she'd have to stop, and particularly in the summer when it's really hot. But she said, you know, after probably 4 weeks, she could actually run for a mile.
I've been doing it for 2 weeks. I hate the treadmill, but I like the treadmill, but I can watch the minutes on my timer. And I've been doing it for 2 weeks, and this morning I ran 12 minutes, 1 minute at a time.
You know what? That's all you need is 1 minute at a time. Yes.
Yeah.
You don't want to leave home to exercise, and a lot of people don't. I mean, the easiest thing is you get those sweating through the oldies tapes that Richard Simmons made.
Well, that's very true.
You can stay at home and you can get a workout.
Yes, you can. Absolutely. I can't keep up with those. I'm one of those people who could come up with any excuse not to exercise, you know. But the truth is, when I was working on the floor, taking care of patients instead of more of a desk job, I was like this. I was very thin, and once I went to a desk job, I put on 20 pounds. That's the difference in activity levels. Yes.
You can also, what I do is I also keep a journal of my exercise. Because I try to do it throughout the day when I'm at work. Like, I work on the 4th floor and it's 8 flights of stairs. So on my breaks, you know, I do those stairs as fast as I can. And
Wow.
what I do is,
Yes, a Fitbit is a great thing to get, because it will track it for
It
you.
will track it for you, and I write about it too. Dr. Sabopathy suggested journaling, so I journal how I feel about food and about exercise. I just sort of get it out so that it won't linger around and I won't be depressed about it or anything.
Well, that's
And
good.
that really, really does help me.
Okay, great.
And Google, from your library, don't go to the library and look through tapes, but Google the library, exercise DVDs.
And you can pull them up?
You can pull them up, and then they will email you when it's delivered to your, library location.
Uh-huh.
And then you go and you get it, and it's free. I mean, because when I'm a massage therapist, and I tell a lot of people to try yoga.
Why didn't you tell me that about 6 months ago?
I tell a lot of my clients to go to the library and get yoga tapes.
Uh-huh.
Because there's so many different types of yoga, so
Uh-huh.
many different levels
Yes,
of
yes, very much so.
difficulty, especially for like back pain and different things.
Mhm.
And it's free. And then if you like one, then you can go out to Amazon or something and you can buy it used and it's cheaper.
Good. Well, thank you for those suggestions. I want to finish this up so we can get into our small groups real quick. So in any case, you've got to keep doing it in the long term, and as it says, just do it. And these are some of their suggestions for getting yourself motivated, giving yourself little treats and rewards. One is they said, pick a destination that's 1,200 miles away from you that you would like to visit. You know, mine has a palm tree and a beach.
Yes.
And 1 minute exercise should equal 1 mile, getting you toward that. And so after you've completed 1,200 minutes of exercise, treat yourself by going there and relaxing a little bit. The other thing that she said some people do is they'll write down 10 little rewards on slips of paper, and every time they do their exercise like they're supposed to, they pull out a little reward, which can be like a massage or getting your nails done or getting a haircut or getting a new shirt, getting something like that. And the last one is the activity bank. You pay yourself $1 every day that you exercise, and you have to give it back every day you don't. So yeah, I knew somebody who they had to pay some organization that they just hated. They made a pact that if they didn't exercise or they didn't do, I think it was smoking, when they were trying to quit smoking, every day that they smoked, they had to make a donation to this horrible group that, you know, some weirdo group. And that'll keep you from doing it, let me tell you. So, vitamins and supplements, I think we all know that those are necessary to keep your body working correctly. Different nutrients are broken down and absorbed in different parts of the digestive system, and since some of you have that really altered, that's why it really needs to happen. The nutrients that are absorbed in the duodenum, which is an awful lot of them, for bypass patients, that's the part we bypass. So you're not getting those absorbed, so it's really important to take your nutrients, and they said the most absorbable forms are your citrates and your gluconates. So if you see calcium citrate or calcium gluconate, those are going to be more easily absorbed. Same thing with your iron and other vitamins. And please come get your blood work and get that checked so that we know if you're getting enough vitamins. These are the recommended tests. If you're getting it done someplace else, you want tests that are going to cover your kidneys, your liver, your acid-base balance, your blood sugar, and your proteins, and your blood count. And then B12 always has to be done separately. So if you can't get into us to do it, then have that done wherever you are.
How often are you supposed to have that done?
You should have your lab work done the first year at 2 months, 6 months, and 12 months. After that, once a year. At least once a year. So if you haven't been in and had any lab work done for a while, call and make an appointment. Come in, see them, get your lab work done in the office, and they will call you if you have any abnormal numbers. One of the, I feel like I'm missing a slide. Oh, okay. She said, she referred to successful failures. A lot of people are going to have a point where they fail a little bit, and the important thing is not to take that so hard. I tell a lot of people, if you eat 19 out of 21 meals a week correctly, don't beat yourself up over the 2 you screwed up on. You know, you need to celebrate your successes. Because everybody's going to gain a few pounds sooner or later. It's going to happen to everybody. And some people, that's when they stop coming back. They refuse to come see the surgeon because they're embarrassed and they're afraid the surgeon's going to yell at them. They stop coming to support groups because they don't want anybody to know that they've gained any weight. They stop going back to their old diets, or they'll start going to Weight Watchers or something, thinking, okay, I'll do it over there, and then they won't know. There are some people that they sabotage themselves. They're kind of afraid to succeed. And one of the people that she talked to said, you know, people treat me differently when I'm heavy as opposed to when I'm thin. And if you're very used to being treated a certain way, and suddenly people are responding to you differently, that could be a very scary thing for some people. And so they kind of want to go back to where they're comfortable. And that's one of those things that it doesn't make a lot of sense to people who are really motivated to do that. But if you've been heavy for 30 years and suddenly you're thin, people are going to respond to you differently. And that can just be very, very frightening. They don't want to be noticed. They've been very used to being kind of isolated, not seeing a lot of people. They don't go out a lot. And suddenly, all those things are gone, and they can do whatever they want. That's very scary to some people. So if you find that's going on with you, Dr. Savapathy is always in the office. Yes?
Can you reset your genetic set point?
No.
And how hard is that?
Your genetic set point is kind of, that's what you inherited. And then actually, you can't reset it, the surgery resets it. And we don't even know why. We don't know what the mechanism is that when you have the surgery, it does completely lower your set point. So you are now able to lose weight and keep it off. Before, if your set point's up here, every time you lose weight, your body's pulling you back up here. After surgery, your set point is down here, so now you can take the weight off and it stays. Okay? There's so much research that's going on in bariatric surgery, and we don't understand a lot of it.
In a earlier meeting, I guess it was in last year, Dr. Savapathy brought up that your body is always trying to go back to the original set point, you know, and you have to, there's ways to battle that. I can't remember what he said. Hopefully he'll cover it.
He's coming next month, so ask him about that next month. Okay, so don't let the mistakes define you. Reach out, get support, and get back on track, because you're not alone. Everybody is going to go through this at some point. Okay? Any quick questions before we break into groups? Okay. Why don't we do